Let's unpack all of this with former ICE Special Agent Tim Miller. Sir, thank you for joining us, giving us a little bit of your time this Saturday morning. We greatly appreciate it. I want to start with that information we're getting from DHS, that in just this very short amount of time, tracking things over the course of just a couple of days, there are really a lot of car ramming attacks on their agents. This is something the Border Patrol, something ICE agents see throughout their duties as they're out just trying to conduct their lawful efforts to get to their targeted people that they're trying to bring into custody. Your thoughts on this as these numbers continue to grow?
Well, Molly, first off, it's amazing to me how the left says, hey, believe me, not these lying pictures. We saw what happened. And to be clear, ICE agents and every other law enforcement officer in our country, we don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, I hope I get to take excessive force or use force, any of those things. We simply are enforcing the laws that the people of this country have put into place. And I think that's the big picture. Are we going to be law and order in this country, or are we going to be chaos? And to your point, I used to train agents, Molly. We would, first off, we'd train agents that a 4,000-pound vehicle will kill you quicker than a weapon will. And so if you find yourself in that position, you're in a very serious deadly force issue. And there are three things we train agents that you got to think about. You got to think of the law. You got to think of the facts in front of you, and then you got to think of what are the reasonable force options. And oh, by the way, you only have about 2 to 3 seconds to make that choice. And that's why the Supreme Court case, Molly Graham v. Connor, lays that out. And the court basically said, hey, we're going to have months and years to evaluate use of force decisions that officers had to make within about 2 to 3 seconds. So this is a good example. From what I see, didn't have much of a choice, and it's causing a lot of uprisings. But the bottom line is the officer was defending himself.
When we look at this video, there were other officers there on the scene, and besides the officer that fired the shots, there's another officer that seems to get spun right off of the vehicle. I mean, what do officers need to do to protect one another in situations where there is a moving vehicle, a dangerous vehicle, in an unfolding scene?
Yeah, that's a great point, Molly, because here's the bottom line. All those officers were at risk. Now let's be clear. What are the facts? That's a basis they have to act on. You're trying to effect a lawful arrest. You've told her to step out of the car. And let's be clear. None of us want to see this happen. Nobody, especially the law enforcement officers. And the fix is simple. Comply with law enforcement. When they ask you to do what they're asking you to do and it's lawful, comply with them. And to your point, in this case, the other officers are trying to figure out what's going on in that split-second decision process. And quite frankly, if you're standing in front of a car, think about it. You're standing in front of a vehicle. How much time do you have to decide, hey, am I going to live or die? And they always go back to their training. And I'll tell you, we trained at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. If you find yourself being at risk by a vehicle, you are automatically in a deadly force situation.
Tim, one more quick question. In 2025-2026, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement identified two key aspects of potential vehicle attacks or vehicle rammings against agents. There were agitators, essentially political agitators, but also suspects that were resisting arrest. And we just saw a very recent shooting out in Portland of 2 suspected Tren de Aragua individuals that the agents there had been pursuing. Is there a different level of danger depending on who the potential perpetrators are as a situation unfolds?
Yeah, 100%, Molly, and that's really an important point. This is not about immigration. This is not about, any other issue. It's about an organized effort of terrorism, and I think President Trump is all over it, to undermine the authority of the U.S. government and our ability to enact our laws. And, I hear a lot of folks saying, oh, well, he shouldn't have done this or he shouldn't have done that. Here's the bottom line. If you comply with law enforcement, then you're respecting the will of the American people. We all voted in representatives who made those laws. And so to your point, there is an organized effort. We're getting a lot more information about the international, the funding, all of the components that are showing us, wait a minute, this is not an isolated thing in Minneapolis. This is a great threat to the democracy of the United States.
Yeah, former Special Agent Tim Miller, really appreciate your time. I think we're going to expand on a little bit of what you were saying there. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.